everyone, and today we are going to be going over the Bambu Lab A1. We're going to be going over the good, the bad, and the ugly. So stick around and I'll tell you all I can about this amazing printer. First, I'm going to start off with the goods. This Benchy was printed just under 20 minutes. This thing rounds up, and it looks great. There are some imperfections down at that layer right here, but overall this is a great speed benchy. The text on the bottom is fairly clear. The little plate on the back isn't amazing, but it's a speed benchy, so running on a 4.4 millimeter nozzle. Overall, I think this is a pretty great benchy. My next notable thing is the AMS light. This is amazing. When you load filaments, they have little RFID tags on them that the printer can read through the AMS, and it'll automatically assign filament. If you can go into here, you can see it has all my filament correctly labeled, and I don't even have to do anything. I just press this in, send the filament in, and it just spools it up for me and scans it. I love this. This is one of my favorite features about this printer. My final favorite feature about this printer is Bambu Studio. You can search for online models, like let's just say I wanted to print one of these, and this is all within the slicer. I can just open it. It takes a second sometimes, but it'll automatically arrange it, and I can just slice it and send it to my printer right from my computer without ever having to use any USB thumb drives or micro SD card readers. It's just so seamless and perfect, and there's been very minimal issues I've discovered with this software. And you can even go up to this top tab and view your filaments. You can control where your printer is on here with just these buttons. And overall, this is a great software experience, but the camera is not very reliable for being able to check in whenever you want. So I would highly recommend getting your own camera. I use a Wyze OG camera. It's only like $25, and I think it is definitely worth it. So if you're planning on getting one of these, get a separate Wi-Fi camera, because the one on the printer is not reliable enough. This brings me on to some. Next one is the noise level. I don't have a clip right now, but I'll put one in showing you that it can get decently loud, and I would not want to be in the same room that this is in while sleeping. As you can see, it is fairly fast while still producing fairly high quality, but it is loud. That's about what it is in a room, so it may not be best in a bedroom, but anywhere else where you're not trying to have quiet, this would be pretty good sound levels. And that brings me to the last category, my least favorite parts about this printer. And number one, the AMS. There's no drying solution while you have these on here. They're just going to soak up moisture and get more and more bubbly, which is going to overall reduce the lifetime of your filament and or make you have to dry your filament, which can be quite big of a hassle. So you can print like enclosures around this, but it's not going to be the same as like a AMS or an AMS HT, one of the nicer ones for their other printers. But it's overall a pretty minor thing, so I'll give this one a pass. My next least favorite part is the screen. It's kind of slow loading stuff up sometimes. Like, it's is fine, but it can be a little slow. But since they already have all of the online stuff, you don't really use the screen that much other than like changing settings or doing other things with the actual printer. So this one's fine too. My final least favorite feature that I already kind of mentioned is the camera. It's non-reliable and it's really low frame rate and it has a ton of latency and it's overall not very great quality, and sometimes it can just decide not to connect or show on your computer or your phone, which is really frustrating sometimes. So like I already said, I highly recommend getting a separate camera, which is only like $20 or $30 depending on where you get it from. I'll put a link in the description for the one that I like to use. Alright, next category is print quality. I'm gonna start with this one because this is a good starting point. It will test the tolerances by still having all the cubes be able to move because it's printed in one piece, and supports for supporting it when it prints like this. Overall, I feel like this did a phenomenal job. The printer had no struggle printing this, and I believe it only took like 30 minutes. So this is a 10 out of 10 pass for this challenge. Next, let's just look at the Benchy that we already looked over. It has its nice roof. The chimney is very round. There's no problems with that. And these swooping edges are very smooth. You can see that there's like no overhangs that are too big. And for a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, I think this is pretty much the best you're gonna get. The text on the bottom again is just super clear, and everything is pretty much perfect on this. Next, let's look at some TPU performance. So these arms are supposed to bend down and around, but it was too tight for the printer and the TPU just bonded to itself, so that's not very great. And there is lots of little stringing going across these parts, and it's not amazing. You can see like in these little gaps there's lots of extra filament that was extruded, and the layer bonding isn't great. You can see kind of under his head there's a hole in there, and in some of the tentacles at the end there are again holes. So TPU gets like a 6 out of 10 for performance because the layers don't bond super well, and it has some stringing issues. And the big one, you can't use TPU in the AMS, unfortunately, which is a major downside of having that system that pushes it through the tubes, because it can't push the TPU. Next, let's look at some multicolor. So I printed this to test its performance. I believe this took like 2 hours. I could be wrong, but it was somewhere around 2 hours. And it just tests how well it can switch between filaments and see how cleanly it does it. And you can see there's like no leaking colors from the red to the white. There's a little bit of leakage in the blue to the white, but overall not much at all. So I give this like a 9 out of 10. Next, we can look at retractions. This is a fun little print I made that tests its retractions and ability to just like stay and make nice surfaces. There's little bits of stringing here and there, and sometimes the edges like there were rough, but overall again, this is an amazing printer, and I have almost no complaints with the print quality. Like, I wouldn't shame it at all, because it's only like $400, $500 with tariffs, and it does a great job. One of my main issues, though, is bed adhesion. Now, this could just be me and like old filament that I'm using, or unclean build plate, but it happens every now and again where skinny parts like this will lift up and cause spaghetti. It usually is able to recover at the top, but at that point, like, it's not really worth it to keep this. And there is no AI detection or any systems in place to prevent spaghetti, like to stop the printer when it senses that. So there's nothing in place to protect against this, and you kind of just have to be ready for print failures every now and again. But that's really the only thing that fails on this printer is bed adhesion, which is honestly amazing, because it tells you when you need to lubricate any axis, and it'll give you a QR code on how to do it. So it knows how to maintain itself pretty much. Next up is this stone that I 3D printed. It printed like this with no supports, so it testing overhangs. There's a little bit of loose filament, but I mean, you're not going to get much better than this for the price point of this printer. You can see there's some like loose strands that didn't really bond well because it's an overhang, but overall this is like 7 out of 10. Now it's time for this final one. This is a very tricky one because there's only a very small surface on the back that it has to grab onto, and it has to hold the entire heart, and it prints like this, so it's just bridging a ton of these strands over and over, and there's like almost no drooping. I've broken a couple of them. That was like totally me, not the printer, but there's like no drooping, and they're fully tight. It does phenomenal with bridging. There's no complaints with how well it can bridge over gaps in long single strands, which is super tricky for most printers. So overall, for print quality, I would give it a 8.5 out of 10. Next is filament waste. This is about a month of printing, like maybe 4 days a week. So it does make quite a lot of waste. And this is only like one half of it is a multicolor print from the American rock duck I showed you earlier. You can see the reds and the blues and the whites, but it uses a lot of filament to just purge every time it has to jump from colors to colors. So lots of waste, and be ready to have something to catch it with, because it flings it everywhere. Now it's time for 2 little general notes. This is all the stuff the printer comes with. You got extra knives for like filament cutter. You got 2 extra feet in case they fall off. An extra purge wiper. A little needle to declog the nozzle. Lots of extra screws in case you lose some. You got 2 lubricating oils for the different axes. And this may be hard to believe, but these 2 Allen wrenches are the only things needed to take apart this entire printer. When I was putting my new heat pad on, because of the whole fire thing that they now have totally fixed, I didn't see one screw other than one that used to ground the wire that wasn't these, and the grounding wire was a Phillips head. My second general note is the filament swatches. These provide swatches for every main filament that they sell on their website. So if I'm looking at getting a yellow, I can just go to this, pick out this one, and on this side it says PETG Basic, and then it gives me the code for it. And it's odd, some of these are injection molded and some of them they actually 3D printed, but these are the colors you're going to be getting. So if you're ever shopping on their website, you can just use the filament swatches that the printer came with for free, and you'll be able to see what your filament that you're buying will actually look like. Now, I did print this enclosure around it separately, but they come on a little string, and these are really amazing. Thank you, Bambu Lab, for including these. Next up, I have 2 notes for Bambu Lab. Number 1, this is where you plug in the AMS, and there's a second active port over here. So Bambu Lab, please, if you're watching this video, please let us hook up a second AMS. Please, Bambu Lab, that would be so amazing if you could let us do 8 colors on the A1. Second note is, please let other companies use these RFID tags, or at least let them know how to do it, because these are amazing. And if you would let other companies use them too, then they could also have the seamless integration that you have with your printers. So please let these be open source and let the other companies use them. And that brings up another point. This printer is highly enclosed in Bambu Lab's ecosystem. There's not much openness about it. You gotta use the Bambu Lab slicer. You gotta use the Bambu Lab app on your phone. So there's really not much open about this printer. It is super seamless though. I don't really have any problems with the software other than the camera, but it would be nice if you could let Orca Slicer or maybe Cura and other slicers and other mobile apps be able to at least connect to the printer using LAN, so that print farms could have an easier time. Well, that's the end of my review of the Bambu Lab A1 combo. Overall, I believe this printer is 100% worth the money, and if you are thinking about it, definitely buy this. It is amazing. And if you have any other questions, please drop them in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.